Hello.
Hey,
We got 2 weeks left,
yeah,
split by a bye week
yeah.
for the Super Bowl teams to tell everyone how good they are and how
Mm.
they're gonna win the game and get nervous and whatnot. So last week we'll go through our picks. We both went 1-1. So again, just kind of middling, but so Josh had the Texans for 3 stars, and I don't know. It was one of those. So he had, it was 8.5 when we did the show last week. So it was close quite a bit. Like it seemed like a pretty good pick. And then, the Chiefs go up by 2 scores. And then I had kind of forgotten this because I didn't watch the whole game, but they took a safety late,
Mm-hmm.
but they were up, what, 11, and they took a safety down to
Yeah,
9.
yeah.
Um, I
A
don't know.
strategic safety.
It's still, and then of course we'll talk about this probably at some point today, but there was the controversial calls on Mahomes
Mm.
that I don't know, like if those don't go the Chiefs' way, the Texans probably do cover. So all in
Yeah.
all, I think maybe the right side that just didn't hit, but
Mm. Well,
um,
they just got it. 9 points.
half a point,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I guess Vegas knows something after
I
all.
guess so.
And
Guess
then
so.
we both had the Commanders, and usually when we both like one side, it doesn't do very hot, but it did. Commanders scored, what, 45 points on the
40,
Lions,
41, maybe? Yeah, it was a lot.
and we were right about
No,
something,
45.
so that was good.
45 to 31. Yeah.
Like I think we were saying, if I remember last week, like it's kind of a not so great matchup for the Lions. Like I think Daniels is going to be able to score points on them, and yeah, they pretty much
Boy, did he.
scored every drive, it seemed like. And a lot of it was short passes and or Daniels just running. It was just like an extremely good game plan. Like
He was so
Kingsbury,
good.
you almost have to well, it's the whole question of how much of it is the coordinator and how much of it is the quarterback, sort of a thing. And I don't know. I mean, it's obviously a lot of both, but you got to think with what Kingsbury's been able to do in some of these games. Like top five offensive coordinator or a play caller. I mean, you'd have to say so.
Does he get a job this year, you think? Does he go back to the head coaching chair?
I think if he wants to, he'll definitely get an
Yeah.
offer
Okay.
just because
How good
I
he
don't know.
looked.
I'd have to really think. Well, like who are the top? You know this better than I do, probably. Who are the top candidates that are still out there? Glenn doesn't
Well,
have a job yet, does he?
yeah, no, he signed with the Jets yesterday.
Oh, he did.
Well, I don't know if signed, but yes, he committed. He's agreed to go to the Jets, and then obviously Ben Johnson went to the Bears. So they didn't pull
You
an
don't care about
Eberflus.
that though, do you?
Man, it's what did I say? What did I text you? It's like it's hard to argue. You can't argue with the pick, but like it's also hard to feel confident about this organization doing absolutely anything right, given history, recent history anyway.
Would you say he grew up going to Cubs games?
I heard that, but I was not able to. He's not from here. He's from the
Okay.
Carolinas, right? And so, he's not older than me, right? He's younger than me, which means he would have had ready access to more regionally appropriate baseball teams. No, not like in 1960, where there was like, if you lived in, Omaha, you had the Cubs games and no, probably nothing else, right? The Superstation Channel 9. So I don't know why he would be a Cubs fan.
Yeah.
But
Maybe
we'll
maybe
see.
he's just coming here to like mail it in. He's not really going to try very hard. He's just going to go to Cubs games, like get the perk,
Yeah.
spend like 2 or 3 years and get fired.
Yeah, sit in the bleachers and get hammered in the sun. There's no games, right? Might as well.
Get the beer
Big
snake
Bleacher Club.
going.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, so I don't know. Like, does he go to the Raiders? Does Kingsbury go to the Raiders? Still need a coach, and that feels like a good spot for him, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
Brady and Kingsbury putting their heads together.
yeah. Don't forget Davis, right? Mark Davis,
Oh
football
yeah.
genius. Savviest football mind out there.
Yeah, so that's the thing.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be so last off season Ben Johnson like was ready to take a job and then he kind of backed out. I forget the
The Commanders.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that's right.
Washington. Yeah.
I mean, that'd have been interesting. Oh, well, yeah, that would have been interesting.
And it was not. Schneider either, right? Like it was the new ownership group. So that was a feels like that was a job he could have had he wanted it and he didn't want it. I'm just shocked. Like honest to God, I really don't know what he Ben Johnson, who could have had any job. Like it was like he could have had, I think even the Jets job he probably could have had, right? So he picks the Bears and I don't know what he sees. And clearly he's way better at football than I am. But when you look at what Caleb Williams did, I don't know. I don't know. I don't see like him being Jaden Daniels next year.
Yeah,
I
I
just
I
don't.
agree. I don't either. But yeah, I mean, you'd think he's smart enough to think about more than just
Yeah.
taking a big contract or going to the place that on
Yeah.
the surface seems like maybe the best fit or the best available job. Because like clearly you got to think what you can do. Think about what you and Caleb can do together. Like
Yes.
do
Yep.
do your mindsets
Yeah.
fit each other or whatever? Is it a good
That's right.
fit?
That's right.
And
Yes.
then the really kind of maybe even before that would be, do you have guys that you know you want in free agency for the offensive line, or
Yep.
like can you in the interview did you convince Poles that you want a say in like getting more offensive linemen in the draft, or like whatever he thinks
Please.
is the. But I mean, their defense was at times looked like one of the best, and at
It
times
did.
maybe was at least average. Like they were always good.
Yeah.
So you got a good defense, you got a young quarterback that made progress. Didn't
Yeah.
look probably didn't have as good as a year as even he should have had as a rookie. But
Best rookie Bears rookie season of all time. Like
oh really?
yes, like that. And I don't think it was close.
Okay. And so some of that, I don't know. Like I'm no expert on that, but it seemed like he held the ball a lot in the first half and like didn't want to throw picks, and then kind of got a lot of yards and some touchdowns in
3,500 yards, I think, something
in
like 3,400
in
yards.
garbage time. But when you have like when your stats are that good, it can't all be just
No, well,
doing it when
no.
defenses are soft or anything like that.
Well,
So
what? He only had 6 interceptions, I think, all season, something like that. It was a really low interception count total, given he's a rookie. And it wasn't all garbage time, like because they were in games late. Like the pattern for this season was that they came out. Doesn't matter who the coach was. They came out flat in the first quarter. They sucked. They looked unprepared. They looked frankly unprofessional. And then at some point towards the end of the half, they got themselves together and they made a competitive showing in the second half. That was true in the Washington game. It was true in the Detroit game on Thanksgiving. It was true in the first Vikings game that they played. Um, all season long that they managed to play teams competitively into the and towards the end of the game. And it was in those situations where Caleb did have some flashes of what seemed to be great quarterback play. He never threw the ball like Daniels, though. That guy can put the ball like he's got a cannon for an arm, and his accuracy is astounding to me. Like the way he hits receivers in stride, like downfield, 30 yards down is incredible. Williams never even came close to something like that all year. Never even came close. His passes were always way ahead of him. It just didn't look good. And to your point about the defense, the reason they were able to do that was because the defense kept him in these games, and they didn't get blown out typically. There were a few games where they did, like the 49ers game, but they played close a lot of these games. So it's just there is talent there, but just organizational stupidity like
yeah.
prevented it from being successful.
So the more I think about this, the more I think it really is a good fit with him, just because Ben Johnson obviously can script plays and like one of the best at just like knowing which play to
Yeah.
call at which point, and
Yep.
like where the Bears struggled obviously was like the first halves of games, like scheming up something that would actually work, and that's Johnson's strength.
Yep.
And then Williams' strength is when things go off script, or actually he seemed to make quite a few clutch plays, like long third downs late in games, like he would convert them. That's his strength. So if you get him, you make him more serviceable early in the games by playing better, or like calling better plays and whatnot, and then maybe get a lead or like at least be close, then when the game's close, in the fourth quarter, like he can make some of those plays on third, fourth down and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, I guess it does kind of make sense. And then also, like, I think Ben Johnson was kind of tired of his defense giving up 30 points every game. He's like, all right, I got to go somewhere with a good defense so that I don't have to score 40 every game to win.
Yeah.
And some of that
Was
obviously was
injuries. Yeah, a
injuries.
lot of
And then
injuries.
when teams are playing catch up, they're going to throw it more. They're going to score on you. So some of it was that, but I don't know, like regardless of how many injuries you have, you can't give up 45 in the playoffs. Like,
That was yeah. I mean, didn't they lose? So I think they lost more players in that game on defense. They had more injuries to. I mean, that defense was just decimated. I don't like if it was the defense that started the season, like with terms of health. I don't know. Maybe they still lose that game, but I think it's much closer. The Lions were trading blows in the first half, and it just fell apart for them. It just fell apart.
yeah,
It was unfortunate, but they just you watching the game, it just felt like the Washington win was inevitable. Like Daniels they just looked like they weren't going to stop him. He was going to get whatever he wanted. Um, even if they first forced a long fourth down or third or fourth down, it felt like Daniels could just put the ball where it needed to go, or he could run and get those yards. So yeah, it's a sad state of affairs for the Lions, but I don't know. Best rookie quarterback in the playoffs ever. I've heard people start saying for Daniels.
well, yeah. I mean, I'd have to look it up probably on like who like Manning and Brady and all those guys. Like Brady probably didn't even play his rookie season.
No, I mean Manning did, but I don't think they made the playoffs. Marino is the only one that jumps to mind because he went to the Super Bowl as a rookie, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, in '84, I think, and then he lost to Montana and the Niners, I believe. Um, but other than that, like in terms of like rookies, like pure, like true, honest rookies, because even Mahomes was in his sophomore season when he won MVP and went to the AFC Championship game. He didn't start his rookie season, so maybe that kind of counts. But yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know, true rookies.
yeah. I mean, I don't like Daniels is Lamar Jackson 2.0. Like with that skill set,
I
you
tell you.
you're always gonna like have a good chance at making the playoffs if you stay healthy. And like when you can throw it that well and you can evade blitz, like if people try to blitz you, you can just run. It's just
Oh,
like,
so good, man.
it's frustrating for any
Yeah,
team to try to defend that.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so I mean, the key really is him being healthy though, because
yes.
he's running like more like a running back a lot
Yeah.
than a quarterback. He doesn't go
He's not
down a
built
lot,
like one,
and
not built like a running
it's not
back.
when he's gonna get hurt, it's he's going to get hurt.
And he did get hurt. Like that rib injury, he in the middle of the season, he had that rib
Yeah.
injury and they slowed down a little bit. I mean, they did lose some games. They weren't as competitive and broadcasters would point out that he just didn't seem to have, everything that all his tools were there because of the injury. So you're right, it's going to happen. He's got a slighter frame. He's a bigger guy, I think, but he's slight. He's not 300 pounds. He's not Derrick Henry, who's got a solid build to him. So that is certainly the danger. He can pass so well. He doesn't need to run.
Right.
You
Well,
know.
yeah, you wonder if they said like you're gonna need to run more. Like if this
Yeah.
team this year is gonna be competitive and like make this type of a run, you're gonna just have
Yeah.
to run more. And maybe in the future they start building up more of
Maybe.
the I don't know how good their offensive line is or whatnot, but
Yeah, I don't either.
and then then maybe he kind of figures it out, takes a hit and is like, okay, I don't need to run quite as much. I can get down a little bit more. But yeah. That's interesting you brought up that Ben Johnson could have had the commander's job. You wonder how that would have gone. I mean, the reason why he wouldn't take like the commanders had so many years of just horrible organization.
Hmm.
And like if I were him, you'd have to think twice too. Like, is this team ever going to be good based on like their front office? Then it's kind of crazy to see them do what they're doing the first year, when he could have been that coach, and then they beat him in the playoffs. It's a little bit wild. I didn't think
It
about
is.
that initially,
Yeah,
but
it is. It's really strange. And then what about Dan Quinn? He I think a lot of people want to write off his first head coaching stint because of kind of the embarrassment that was that Super Bowl. Um, but that was a good team that he had. That Falcons team was, I don't think they were 15-1, but they were probably 14-2. That was a good team. They had dominated in the first half of that Super Bowl, and then they let it get away. Some stupid decision making offensively. They got conservative. Um, but like he's been a pretty great coach there. Like, and he's a defensive guy, but he's the defensive guy who seems to know how to put together an offense, or at least oversee an offense, because he did it in Atlanta. It seems like he's doing it here. Um, I think he did a really impressive job. I mean, he's on the precipice of a Super Bowl.
Right. I think he's a good like locker room guy
Clearly,
too. Like everyone
clearly,
likes him, and
yeah,
some of those chemistry things obviously go a long way.
yes,
And then
yes.
seems like late in games, well, we all know what happened in the Super Bowl. What were they down?
28-3.
25 points, yeah, and lost. So he clearly learned from that. I think what they've done in the fourth quarter, they've been a lot more aggressive.
Very aggressive on fourth down.
And like he's not an idiot, right? Like he learned from that. And if he gets to the big game again, like you're not
Yeah.
gonna see
No,
that.
he's not going to take his foot off the gas if he gets there. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, so he took the Falcons to the Super Bowl. If they just hold on and win that, like he's a lot different coach in the minds of most people.
Or if it
Um,
wasn't as bad, like if they go in and they didn't have that lead or it was close, I think his legacy is a lot different. That team kind of fell apart after that too. I mean, they weren't winning. I mean, Ryan was sort of at the end of his career also, but
Right.
um,
Yeah, good stories. Sometimes it's fun to talk about the underdogs or like
the surprises.
I mean, what was Washington's over under win total this year? Probably 7.
Yeah, I mean 8, something like that. I don't. It was a rookie quarterback. There was no expectations for this team,
Right.
right? None.
I did say this before the season. I said it feels like Daniels is going to be that guy like Stroud, where he's not the top prospect, but he comes in and just could have like a really good year and be the best quarterback of that draft. I said that.
Yes.
I did.
And it's true, and seems like by light years. Although, look, many of the rookie quarterbacks had great seasons, right? Like I think Bo Nix made the playoffs. Nobody thought he was going to be any good. Drake May came in and seemed to do pretty well given the circumstances. Like,
Yeah.
didn't look like a bust. Looked like he knew how to handle himself.
Yeah.
Williams.
I definitely think May, like, I don't think there's a good chance that May comes out next year and just has a bad year. Like
No.
he looked the part.
Yes.
And like
Yeah.
he's gonna have a good year, be able to take it, make a playoff, or like make it to the playoffs, or possibly make it to the playoffs, as long as the pieces fall in place around him. And now you got Vrabel, right? So the defense, you got to think, is going to have that toughness mindset.
Mhm.
And then the key thing for them is when's the last time they had a above average receiver? Like the receivers, it's always like Mario Douglas and
Yeah, no
Kendrick
idea.
Bourne, and like no one who anyone ever really thought of as like a number one.
Mhm.
So they just have to get receivers. They have to have people to throw to.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, you got to figure that's what their offensive plan is, right? Like to unlock him further, get that purebred number one wideout, which is going to be harder to get now in the draft because they did so well this season. But I mean, that's got to be their goal, and make sure the offensive line stays stable.
yeah, I mean, no one's gonna feel sorry for the Patriots though. Like it
No.
seems like they hit the quarterback like the Packers always do,
Yep.
and now they got their coach. They weren't like good organizations do this. Like Mayo got 1 year and he did about like what everyone thought he would do. Like they won some games they shouldn't have won, lost most of their games, but a lot of front offices would be like, okay, he's got 1 year, let's give him another year. But Patriots are like, no, the guy we want is there. And yeah, it sucks for Mayo, but like, it's win now, do the right thing now. Who gives a shit about someone's feelings because we didn't give them a fair shake? And they said they didn't give them a fair shake, but you got to do what you got to do. And some organizations, lesser organizations, just wouldn't make that call. They would wait and then hire Dingle McCringleberry or whoever the next year when
Yeah.
maybe there's not someone available that they really want. But
It was Mayo was an odd choice to me always, but that apparently that was their handpicked guy, and they'd been grooming him for years to come in. But it seemed odd. Uh, Vrabel was
who,
right there.
Vrabel or Mayo?
No, Mayo.
Oh,
Mayo was the guy like that because he had been with the organization. He had been a coach on that staff for a while. And he was always going to be the handpicked successor, is my understanding, that the Crafts had said this is the guy. And I think that's what makes this even worse, right? Like if you pick a guy and he fails in a year and you let him go because it was obviously a mistake, that's one thing. But to have your handpicked successor flame out so spectacularly, is bad. But then why hire him in the first one? Honestly, like Vrabel was there to begin with. He was there
um,
last year. He was let go. He was a free agent when they could have hired him and they
I'd
didn't.
have to look at the timing of when it all went down. I mean, yeah, that maybe works out, but
Because
uh,
he was a offensive consultant for the Cleveland Browns this year. Vrabel. He wasn't a coach on any staff. But I mean, I think they made the right call. Vrabel, I think, was a great coach, and I think he's going to do really well with the Patriots, which is kind of annoying. But
yeah.
new era.
All right. It's enough about all this
Yes.
garbage we've been talking about. So, our brackets, woo, our updated brackets. You got
Yes.
three right. You had the Chiefs winning. The
Yeah.
one you got wrong was the Ravens over the
Yeah.
Bills. You had the
Close.
Eagles and you had the Commanders. That's
Yeah.
pretty good. The only one you got wrong was the one that was basically a pick 'em.
Yeah.
And then I went. I also thought the Ravens would win. I didn't get that. I thought the Rams would have a good chance, and they did. It was kind. I mean, it was until they just started
Yeah.
fumbling the ball in the snow. It's kind of crazy that you play all these games, most of these games, like 90% of the regular season, it's in like good weather, and then it's like you have to go play a different game in the playoffs. And I don't know. I mean, I guess a lot of that's coaching, right?
Yeah.
Like you got to hold on to the ball, but it's like okay, now it's snowing and like you just get a weird game and all of a sudden like running the ball is way more important. I don't know. It just seems weird that it should have to be like that. But anyway, you got three right, I got two right. So now we will go on to the conference championship. So we got
Championship.
two games,
Mm.
four teams left. The first one, I believe, at 2 o'clock Central on Sunday
Mm.
is the Commanders at the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
I said Eagles 4.5.
I got Eagles by 6.5. Give me 6.5.
Oh, what do we have? It is. Ooh, it opened at 4.5 and it went up to 6. Hey, you get that one.
Yeah.
All right, so no surprises. It's more than 4 and less than 7, which seems very fair. So these two teams split in the regular season. The first matchup, the Commanders, I don't know if they were ahead at halftime, but it was very close in the first half, and then the Eagles ended up winning by a couple scores. And then the second game was the one where Hurts got hurt. I forget when it was. It might have been third quarter, and then the Commanders end up winning, kind of on a last second drive, sort
By
of.
3.
But Kenny Pickett played the last quarter, maybe 2 quarters of that game.
Mm-hmm.
So they split. Obviously, you'd say the Eagles controlled most of both of those games. And given that Hurts got hurt, that was a big part of it. So I don't know. I guess very fair line. Like I said, more than 4, less than 7. It's right in that range. Last week, the Eagles, it was 6, and they won exactly by 6. So I think it makes a lot of sense. The whole question here is, can the Commanders keep riding the wave? Like, can they keep playing well? If they can, obviously they're going to cover 6. The Eagles have been dominant too.
They won 10, 11 in a row, something like that before Jalen was hurt. It was crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, you got to think that the Eagles can win by more than a field goal. So is it 6? Is it more than 6? The key Hurts went down awkwardly and like grabbed his knee.
Yep.
And at the time, I thought he might have torn something. Obviously, must not have. But the key is like, how did that feel the next day, and like, how does it feel now? Because I don't know. Hurts is obviously like a bigger bodied quarterback and like more filled out, taller guy who can kind of withstand some more of those hits than some of these other quarterbacks. But I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he's hampered a little bit by that. Although I haven't checked a injury report.
He's slated to play
Okay,
this weekend. He's slated to play.
but
Whether
is
or
he
not
like what? Like not
he's
questionable,
not.
but
I mean,
like
I didn't see the designation, but it just
openly under 100%, or you know?
that it didn't say. Like just
Okay.
quickly the headline I scanned, it didn't say. I don't think he's 100% is what I'm getting, the sense that I'm getting, but that it's the playoffs and he's playing. It's the
And then
championship game.
the other thing, Barkley took a helmet to the hand. Like they showed the replay, and it looked like he got hit pretty hard. And he came out for most of like the next series, maybe. Like I've broken my hand twice. When you see someone take a helmet, like a guy's dive, basically like lunging in and hitting your hand squarely with a helmet. Um, I always wonder, like, did he break a bone in his hand? I mean, probably not. You would have seen something, but at the least, it's like a probably a bone bruise or something like that. Now,
Mhm.
granted, Saquon Barkley's hands are probably a little stronger than mine, but um, so just some things to monitor, right? Like if Hurts isn't 100% with his legs and Barkley's hands wrapped up because he's got some discomfort. I don't know if it's supposed to be cold. I think that the weather is actually supposed to be pretty decent in both Kansas City and Philadelphia, like 30s maybe for both,
Mhm.
and no precipitation. So hopefully we can get like normal games where teams can
Yeah,
actually
the
throw the
football.
ball,
Yeah,
and
stands out.
like
Yeah.
that'd be kind of nice.
Yeah.
But as far as like a pick, um, I don't know. I think I'm gonna leave this one alone. Like I want to say that the Commanders, the way they're playing, can cover +6 against most teams at this point,
Yeah.
but it is higher than I thought, so we'll see. And whenever a line jumps from 4.5 to 6, almost 6.5, the wise guys like the side the way it's moving, so the wise guys must like the Eagles, you'd think. So I don't know.
Give me the Eagle or give me the Commanders.
You're
I'm gonna
gonna
take
ride
I'm gonna ride
the
ride
wave,
Washington.
the wash wave.
I'm gonna ride what I believe to be maybe the
How many stars?
give
6.
me three. Yeah, I'll take a million, infinite stars. Uh I was gonna say give me the best quarterback left in the playoffs, but um
Whoa.
yeah, right. Talk about a hot take. But give me the guy who I think is on the cusp of being something like that.
Yeah.
I thought he
Uh,
looked incredible. And the Eagles, I don't know, they won a bunch of games this year.
yeah.
So they're great. They look like a really good team. But if Hurts is not 100% and Daniels is healthier, I'll take Daniels.
Yeah. And how about the Eagles avoiding the Lions,
Yeah.
getting home field through? I mean, they didn't get a bye, but
Yeah.
um, you got to think they'd much rather play the Commanders than the Lions here. And it kind of sucks that we didn't get to see Lions
Yeah.
Eagles. They didn't play in the regular season.
Mm-mm.
But
Yeah, we got so
yeah,
many great regular season like playoff predictive matchups, and we didn't get that one this year. That is a bit of a bummer. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think the Eagles would have won given the state of Detroit's defense. So I just didn't think given how injury plagued they were, that they would have made much of a noise. The Lions. It's really unfortunate because they were a terrific team this year.
yeah. All right. One thing we didn't talk about much was the Eagles Rams game. So it's a weird game. Well, I did say the Rams fumbled just because it started snowing and they just couldn't hold on to the ball. Like Stafford fumbled, Kyron Williams fumbled. I forget who else. But even so, like it was anybody's ball game until they started fumbling. And even when they did, like the Eagles went up by 13 with like 6 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Rams went right down and scored. Great clock management. They scored with like 3.5 minutes left or
Mm-hmm.
3 minutes, all their timeouts. So then they stopped the Eagles and they had plenty of time to go down and they get it down to like what, the 25,
Yeah.
and then they just stall out.
Yeah.
So just kind of like it was a great game, and then it was like, oh, fumbles are just gonna ruin like a good game. And then it was like, oh wait, the Rams could still win this game. Like they have a very good chance of winning this game. Clock didn't even end up being an issue really. They just couldn't convert on fourth down. But um yeah. So that's that. We had to rehash that game a little bit. There's only so much content when there's only 4 teams left. Okay, let's go to this other game that everyone's talking about.
Wait, if there's another game?
No, maybe Commanders Eagles is the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah. Okay. Makes
They
sense.
don't want Mahomes to win another one, so he's just canceling his game and not
Yeah.
giving the Bills a chance either.
That sounds great.
Okay, we got the Bills skis in Kansas City for the rematch of an earlier contest, which was in Buffalo at the Chiefs. I said the Chiefs by 2.
I had the Chiefs by 4.5. Giving 4.5, which is wrong.
So it was one. It looks like 1.5. Oh, happy day! We each got one closer.
Yeah.
Okay, so you thought the Chiefs would be more than 3.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the Chiefs would be less than 3, but still favored. So it's 1.5. I think that's fair. So I don't know. So the Bills beat the Chiefs, and I don't want to say they dominated that first matchup, but they ended up winning by like 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a great spot for the Bills at that time. The Chiefs, I think, were undefeated.
Yes.
So the Bills, home game, they've had success against Mahomes and the
Mhm.
Chiefs in the regular
Yep.
season, and they got it done.
Yep.
Now, you've got all the haters of these quote unquote controversial calls against
Mhm.
Mahomes who want to see Buffalo win a championship because they like Josh Allen and they like the fact that the Bills have never won one, right? So like 90% of America who's not a Chiefs fan seems to be pulling for the Bills. But it's the Chiefs against the Bills in the playoffs, which I think Mahomes is 3-1 against, or is he 3-0 against Mahomes or Allen in the playoffs?
In the playoffs, that is correct. Yes, I think because they lost last. I think they've met every year. Of the last 3 years. I
Well,
think that's right.
the Bengals beat the Bills
And that was
in Buffalo. Was it last year or 2 years ago?
Oh, maybe that. Yeah, that's right.
So I don't think they would have met that year,
No.
but
Okay, so 3 of the last 4 years then.
so the story is, do the Chiefs get a little redemption from the earlier loss now that they're at home,
Mhm.
or do the Bills finally get over the hump? Um, I don't know what you like in this one. I don't know. I just think the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs win this game. They're just in the playoffs, like they just don't make mistakes, and I just like at home. I just think they get it done.
Yeah, it's hard to. I really want to pick the Bills here, but I agree. The Chiefs have to show it to me that they're going to lose this game, right? And it's not Joe Burrow, right? Because he's the only one who's done it, and Tom Brady's retired. So, yeah, I don't see how you pick against the Chiefs. I just don't. Like this has been a down year for Patrick Mahomes. The thing that has powered this engine of winning has not been great, and they haven't scored prolifically. The defense has been pretty terrific. And they've taken on all comers. Yeah, I don't see how you move away from the Chiefs. I don't see it.
Well, I mean, with them not really blowing out teams,
Mm-mm.
they also haven't had a lot of games where they were down by 2 and needed a field goal
No.
at the end. Like they seemed to still be on the plus side and sort of like airing out the clock or whatever, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like playing a ball possession game and like playing the right way, not turning it over, but not being like super dynamic on offense and, scoring constantly. Like, I don't know, like is that not just like a smart way of doing it? It's like
It's working for them. They've played, yeah.
so I've said this all year and it's gonna I don't know, whoever's watching this is probably gonna roll their eyes, but running the ball against the Bills is not that difficult to do. So possessing the ball, like the Chiefs' time of possession, I think is going to be better than the Bills in this game. Keep the ball out of Allen's hands. You don't let him really get cooking, and you just kind of, I don't know, like get points, keep it close, and then it's Mahomes at home in the playoffs where he's beaten this team a million times. It just,
Yeah.
like I don't know. I think the Bills deserve to get one sooner or later, but until it happens, like I'm just not picking it. I just don't,
That's right.
like if they go in Kansas City and win this game, I mean, you got to tip your hat. I just don't see it happening.
Great.
But at the same time, I saw something about like the the Ravens are the Bills' worst matchup because I think because of the Henry running the ball and the Bills' run defense isn't great. And then what did it say? The Bills is the Chiefs' worst matchup, which I don't know if I really agree with that or not, but I think that's the way they put it. And then they said what was it? The Chiefs is the Ravens' worst matchup. So kind of like the Chiefs of the Ravens and Bills, they didn't want to play the Bills apparently. The Bills of the Ravens and Chiefs, they didn't want to play the Ravens apparently, even though they beat the Ravens. Granted, the Ravens turned it over at least 3, if not 4 times, kind of beat
Sloppy
themselves.
play. Yeah. Sloppy play.
Um, yeah. So you've got, I don't know. What do you think? You said you're going Chiefs?
Yeah. Chiefs. I'll take the Chiefs here for 3 stars.
3 stars. Me too.
I just,
1, 2, 3.
I think they'll cover. That's just a low enough line where it's like,
Yeah. The key really, like the Chiefs' run game hasn't been, well, I don't know. I guess maybe I just haven't paid close of attention. But like Pacheco hasn't come back the way that he played before. Maybe he's just getting his feet under him still, and Hunt's been good, so I guess they're kind of just like splitting time. But it's gonna be interesting to see if they can, how that matchup goes. If the Bills can kind of shut down the run, it gives them a much better chance of winning. But just a really good game. Like no one was really expecting Eagles Commanders, but I think a lot of people were kind of expecting Chiefs Bills, and now you get it. So kind of a prime time game Sunday night. Get your popcorn ready.
it's great scheduling. I mean, these are both great games. A lot of fun, a lot of excitement.
Was that 13-second touchdown game a playoff game?
Yes.
It was.
Yeah. Divisional playoff game, I believe.
In Buffalo. Or no,
it was in Kansas City.
Was it?
I believe so.
See, like I don't want to say anything about like superstition or just kind of, but like this game's close and like some weird stuff starts happening. Don't you just start thinking if you're the Bills, like you almost have to, right?
Yes, it's got to be in your head. Oh no, here we go again.
Right. Yeah, so it should be a good game. One other thing we didn't really talk much about was the Bills Ravens. I mean, obviously we both liked the Ravens last week. So they turn it over 3 or 4 times. I don't think the Bills turned it over once. And they still lose by 2, and like Andrews loses a fumble on like the Bills 35, and then he can't catch the 2-point conversion, and
oh my
it's just
God,
like
it's maddening.
At what point?
Oh, he had that ball.
We
He
say
had it.
we say Harbaugh is a good coach, but at what point do you have to stress ball security in the playoffs and like
no penalties?
Stop doing what we
Sloppy.
like. How you have if you're a good coach, you have to find a way to make it actually happen.
Yeah.
Like what like I'm not saying it's easy, right? But you have to stress it, or you have to come up with a way where your team doesn't just shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, he's not getting as good as Lamar Jackson has been. From a coaching perspective, there are team systemic issues that are preventing wins on the field. The penalties, I think I've said this a couple times in the past, they were at the top or near the top for penalty yards all year. That's crazy when you think about Harbaugh. And so I was going to ask, there's been a lot of talk. I don't think I think that's been put to bed that Steelers should move on from Tomlin. What about Harbaugh? He's been in there a long time. He's never made it back to. I mean, has he even made it back to an AFC Championship game since the Super Bowl? I don't think he's made an AFC Championship with Lamar.
I don't know.
I
No,
don't think
I don't
he
think
has.
so.
So
Well, doesn't Lamar only have like one
he
or two playoff wins
I
or
think he's
something
got
like-
two. I think maybe he has three now with the wild card win this year. Because going into last year, he only had the one, and then they beat the Texans. So yeah, you're not getting the most, at least from a playoff standpoint, out of the best, like the one of the best quarterbacks, top three quarterbacks in the league. And it's not his play that's the problem. It's the things that are going on around him. At what point do you look at the coach and go, maybe it's time to move on?
Well, Lamar did
mean-
fumble one. Had a really bad fumble.
And he had an
too.
interception. Like he had an interception. So yes, but I don't know. I don't know. And look, Mark Anderson, like that's not Lamar's fault. It's not John Harbaugh's fault that Anderson just couldn't catch that ball. But
Who?
the tight end who dropped it.
Oh,
Anderson.
Andrews.
Andrews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't either.
Like
But
it's crazy how some teams can take care of the ball in the playoffs every game, pretty
Yeah.
much. And so, like sometimes stuff's gonna happen. Like you can't control
Yeah.
it, sort of thing. But if a team's doing it constantly and just shooting themselves in the foot like every year,
yeah.
there's a problem, and you have to figure out a way to like if you're gonna make the playoffs every year and you know how to do that part, you got to
Yeah.
focus on the stuff that's making you lose these games.
That's right.
And obviously, it's must be easier said than done. But I mean, if you're a Ravens fan, making it every year and
Wow.
just sucking. Granted, they won one within the last 15 years or whatever.
They
So,
did.
but I don't know.
And
Gotta
they've
be
been
tough.
competitive. They've been competitive. I mean, they were the best team in the league a year ago. Not that it means anything this year, but yeah, it has to be frustrating to get close. And you see that when you get close every time, but you never make it. Even though you're good, you do see leadership changes. It does happen, especially in the NFL. I mean, I would like if McDermott loses again to Kansas City, and I brought this up, I think last week. Is it time to start out? Does he need to go if he can't beat Andy? I don't know. I mean, clearly they're good because they've been good, but are they good enough? And the
Yeah.
answer has been no, they haven't. Both of those teams,
Yeah. Who has been good enough though? Like
Cincinnati.
so, yeah. The Bengals beat them
have been-
once, right?
That's right. But and they. I mean, this was a weird year, but Burrow is clearly capable of doing it. But he's been the only guy. And like if this was Kansas City Chiefs, or excuse me, if this was the Cincinnati Kansas City instead of Kansas City Bill, I don't know that I would pick the Chiefs. I might pick Burrow.
No,
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah, he's proven it, and
He
like
has, yes,
you just know when they've done it before,
that's right.
like that mindset,
Mhm.
even if it's just confidence or whatever it
Yes.
is.
And he
like-
exudes confidence,
Right.
Burrow. Like
Yeah, and like I feel like Allen isn't going to back down from anything
No.
either, or have any
No.
sort of like
no.
nervousness or anything like
Nope.
that either. But when he hasn't done it, you just don't expect it to happen.
And there's
I don't know.
there's a haplessness about this team, the Bills. And I just because they haven't done it, right? Or the idea that you could score 6 touchdowns and stuff. It's like that's weird too. But because you haven't seen it, and there's been some prolific losses. That 13-second game, yeah, it just sort of hangs over you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think if you're the Bills, like if you win the coin flip, you probably just take the ball.
Yes.
And your best chance
Score.
of winning, I think, is to get up by 2 scores.
Just don't stop scoring. Like that has to be your mentality. Just every time you have the ball, you got to score.
The other thing I just thought of, I think the Bills have a couple injuries on defense.
Mm.
I think Taron Johnson got hurt.
Mhm.
Granted, I don't know. He might not even be out this week, but that's something to watch.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if the Chiefs have any injuries on defense, but I don't know. Should be a good game either way.
Mhm.
I don't know. Like most people are pulling for the Bills, at least people who don't really like either one of these teams. They just going against the Chiefs. They want to see Allen and the Bills win one. Um, call me crazy. I guess I just think the Chiefs will win. I don't dislike Mahomes and Kelsey
Nope.
and those guys as much as most people do. Um, but I don't know. We're both going Chiefs.
Yeah.
3 stars should be a good game.
Yep.
Maybe it's the year the Bills get over the hump, but until they do it, we're not gonna predict it.
No.
What else?
You want to predict the?
Oh yeah, let's do it. Okay. Where are you going?
I mean, I'm gonna go Washington. I'm
Why?
gonna go Washington to win the game. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Well, they came through it for us last week, so. And then what? Chiefs.
Yeah, and then give me Chiefs.
Chiefs. Right. Okay, I'm gonna be boring. I'm gonna do the same thing. All you Eagles fans
Sorry, Eagles
can be
fan.
mad, but we're I don't know. I'm gonna go Wash Chiefs. Chiefs. I'm just trying to think if it is Washington and the Chiefs. That'd be interesting. Did they play each other? Check if they played each other in the regular. I doubt they did.
I don't
but,
think they did.
the
do not
best,
believe
maybe
they
the
did.
best chance of a team kind of beating the Chiefs is someone who just hasn't been beaten by them yet. Just kind of goes in there, young and dumb, and just says, "Let's roll."
Yeah. And who can just pass with pinpoint accuracy?
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like a good thing to have. I mean, just some of the plays he made late in that Detroit game, it just when they were still trying, when they were fighting and the defense was swarming him, it's just magic, just electric. It just was indescribably good, and I feel like that can carry them through at least this Eagles game. Who had a really amazing season. They won 14 games. They had a 11 game winning streak. It just, again, after everybody was calling for the coach's head, like by week 5, they're like, Sirianni's done. He's on the hot seat. They're terrible. It's falling apart. And here they are, NFC Championship game, second time out of 3 years. But yeah, I think Washington's going to win.
All right. There you have it. And then we're going to have a week off, which is the Pro Bowl games, which I don't usually watch. And then we'll have Super Bowl, which is the second weekend in February. I thought it was always the first Sunday in February, but.
Yeah, I don't know. Just the way the calendar worked this year.
Yeah, I guess. February 9th, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. I don't have anything else to say.
Nope.
So we'll say, go Vikings!
Go Bears.